I never imagined that my first year at Maplewood University in Denver would be filled with such drama. I am Clara Winslow, a 19-year-old girl navigating the complexities of college life, trying to find my place in a sea of towering ambitions and clashing personalities. Those first few months with a roommate like Byron were supposed to be a time of excitement and new beginnings, but instead, it turned into an experience that tested my patience and my morals. Byron was the epitome of arrogance. He strutted through our dorm like a peacock, always boasting about his high school glory days and how he was the most popular guy in the room, no matter where he was. His laugh was loud, his flamboyance overwhelming, and his conversations often revolved around the ridiculous parties he had thrown back home. As someone who had always been more reserved and humble, I found his brashness exhausting. Perhaps the worst part about sharing a room with him, however, was not just his constant bragging, but the absolute disregard he exhibited toward my privacy. There I was, in the lower bunk of our cramped dorm, trying to catch up on coursework and establish a new life away from home. But every time I tried to find solace in my studies or relax after a long day, Byron managed to disrupt everything. To my utter horror, he would often bring girls back to the room, loud and oblivious to the fact that they were interrupting my life. Imagine trying to sleep while your roommate was engaging in activities that left me stuck underneath, wide awake, and more than a little uncomfortable. I wanted to scream at him incessantly for this blatant lack of respect, but I had to swallow that anger and frustration. As I spent more time cooped up in the library or hanging out with friends, I realized that his cavalier personality would not change. He was not going to treat me with the courtesy I needed whenever he had a girl over, and every time he brought someone back, it felt like one more reminder of how our living arrangement made me feel small. Indignation bubbled beneath the surface, and I found myself yearning for revenge, not just to get him back, but to reclaim my own dignity. One fateful day, I overheard him chatting about a big date he had planned with some girl from our floor. His arrogant demeanor was amplified by the extra pep in his step, and it felt like I had been handed an opportunity. As I listened to him describe their plans to go out for dinner, a real dinner, not just the college cafeteria, my mind began to race with ideas. This was my moment. They say revenge is a dish best served cold, and I was determined to make my revenge both clever and sweet. I had a box of Oreos in my room, which I had planned to enjoy as a little treat. But then it hit me, Oreos could serve a much higher purpose. My plan hatched like a devious shadow in my brain. I took out the box and carefully separated the cookies, planning meticulously. I dug out some X-Lax from my stash, which I had always kept handy in case of emergencies or for the occasional tummy troubles from college food. I inserted the X-Lax into a couple of Oreos, ensuring they were cleverly hidden towards the bottom of the box, while keeping the top cookies pure and delicious. Throughout the day, I struggled to contain my excitement. I wanted to relish the thought of Byron gorging on the cookies just as he had gorged on his need for attention and popularity. As the evening rolled around, I knew it was my chance. I found a cozy spot in the lounge with my little box of Oreos. I was positioned perfectly, and I awaited Byron's arrival with a calm exterior, even though my heart raced. When he finally strolled in, his eyes lit up at the sight of me and my box of Oreos. "Hey, Clara, are those new Oreos? They look great," he exclaimed as his interest piqued. I smiled brightly at him while inwardly laughing. "Yes, they are delicious. Would you like some?" "I am feeling pretty full," I replied, doing my best to hide the glee that threatened to burst forth. "Sure, I am kind of starving and not having dinner until later," he said, snatching up an Oreo and devouring it as if it were his last meal. I watched him unroll the rest of the cookies with absolute delight, knowing that he had just unintentionally set himself up for his own downfall. Little did he know the little surprise waiting for him a few cookies down the line. The hours crept by as I chilled with friends, holding my breath and praying for cosmic justice. The anticipation of revenge filled me with sweet adrenaline. Finally, Byron returned from his long date, the swagger in his step now replaced with a look of total bewilderment. He plopped down in the lounge, the atmosphere thick with embarrassment as he started to recount the tale. I could barely keep a straight face as he shared how the evening had been completely derailed. "Oh man, Clara. My date was going so well until I could not stop making trips to the bathroom. I was mortified. I think I might have eaten something bad," he stammered between chuckles and grimaces. All I could manage was a sympathetic little nod. Deep down, I felt a warmth radiating from my heart, knowing that my plan had worked perfectly. The glory of revenge did not just come from Byron's discomfort, it was from the moment I shared with my friends later. We popped open a couple of cheap beers at our favorite hangout, celebrating what felt like an epic triumph over the constant disrespect I had endured. We laughed and made toasts to revenge, and as I took a sip of my drink, I felt liberated, like I had finally given a voice to the frustrations he had imposed upon me. But as the night progressed, Byron's ongoing embarrassment became a reminder that revenge can sometimes spiral into its own brand of misfortune. The next morning, I woke up to the sounds of him lamenting in the bathroom, groans echoing through the wall as he tried to battle the aftermath of our little prank. I stifled my laughter, feeling a bit guilty. This was not just a reckless prank anymore, it was karma, and I knew it would ripple through our relationship. After that, everything changed. The taps of the toilet became a constant reminder of what had happened, and I could see Byron slowly retreating from our shared space. He grew quieter and more withdrawn, a shadow of the arrogant boy who had initially inhabited the space. My victory weighed heavily on me. I had gained my revenge, but at what cost? Byron's embarrassment had transformed him into a recluse, and I could see that a scar had been left on our living dynamic. Our interactions began to diminish, and though I had achieved what I had set out to do, it felt hollow. I realized that revenge sometimes has sneaky consequences, and it was painful to watch as Byron receded into a shell. As days passed, I picked up on the whispers echoing from fellow students, the way his reputation had been lightly tarnished. Now, he was a joke, not just a braggart. With graduation looming in the foreseeable horizon, I knew I had unknowingly altered the course of his collegiate life. Each encounter between us was laden with unspoken tension and awkwardness. I was not the proud victor I had hoped to be. I had set out to teach him a lesson, but instead, he went from being a loud thorn in my side to a quiet, almost invisible specter in our shared world. In unexpected twists, life has a way of delivering lessons even when we don't seek them. I learned that while my joke had brought momentary satisfaction, it also created a chasm between us. What started as a quest for revenge morphed into a reflection of my own actions. I started to question if I was the true winner at all. Eventually, the moment came when we crossed paths one last time at graduation. I caught him standing alone, staring blankly at the bustling crowd of our peers, a shadow of his former self. Deep down, there was a flicker of guilt hidden beneath the surface. It was time to face the music, to acknowledge the elephant in the room. As I approached, Byron turned to face me, his eyes still showing traces of the embarrassment I had witnessed so many times before. "Hey Clara," he started, his voice tempered, almost shy. "I am glad we made it through this year." He offered a tentative smile, but there was also a hint of vulnerability there, something I had not noticed before. There was a fragile spark of understanding growing between us. We stood there for a moment, looking at each other, unearthing the hidden emotions that lingered from all of our experiences. "I guess we both learned something this year, huh?" I finally said, and it felt liberating. It was not just a hollow apology, but an acknowledgement of growth that had graced both of us in our own ways. Byron chuckled softly. "You were the best roommate I could have asked for, even if it did not seem that way." I smiled, sensing a change. I had taken my revenge, but perhaps it was time to offer something more valuable: forgiveness. As graduation transitioned into a new chapter in our lives, the victory I sought turned out to be an unexpected reconciliation, putting old grudges to rest and nurturing new beginnings. And while many tales of revenge end in bitterness, mine found peace and understanding. As I walked away from that moment, I felt lighter, knowing that no matter how tumultuous life may be, there is always a chance for redemption and growth, both for ourselves and for those we initially see as adversaries.